So hello and welcome back to Leadership Trailblazers. And today I'm delighted to welcome as my guest Fiona Harrold, who was a trailblazer in coaching in the UK when coaching was first introduced, which I think was around about 1999 when you published Be Your Own Life Coach. And Fiona has been a trailblazer and a thought leader in the coaching industry for decades. And she now runs her own boutique communications media agency. So thank you so much for joining us today, Fiona.
No, I'm
thrilled.
Really
delighted
Absolutely thrilled. Thank you.
To have you here. So as you know, Leadership Trailblazers is all about how we led yesterday isn't going to lead us into tomorrow. So I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on leadership today, because I know you work with a lot of big brands and leaders within those brands, and how you think leadership has evolved and what it really takes to be a trailblazing leader today. So I wonder if we could start off with just what you think are the really important qualities and skills that a leader needs to have to succeed in today's world.
Awesome. Big question. I think that the ability to inspire others is a number one skill that you've got to have, because, nobody can do everything themselves. You've got to be able to build a team of enthusiastic, committed, inspired people. So being able to communicate that vision, being able to enroll people into that vision, I think is absolutely crucial. Otherwise, you can never go on holiday.
Absolutely. And how do you see, as I say, you've worked with leaders throughout your career and being one. And how do you see that leadership has evolved particularly over the last, 6 to 10 years?
I think there's been that old-fashioned mode of being a leader, of leadership, which is very much the command and control. I'm sure it's still in place in many places, but really people have become intolerant and impatient of that type of leadership. I think people are a lot less tolerant these days, especially the younger generation. They just won't stay. They just won't stay. They won't tolerate it. They will just pack their bags and go. So, especially since the pandemic and lockdown in particular. So I think that if you can't get people on board, if you can't inspire people, if you can't provide an environment for them that they really want to be in, they will walk. They will look around. They will find something else. It's, I guess it's an employee's marketplace. So you have to be able to get on board with learning how to be inspiring, learning how to speak, connect with people, communicate with people so that they are really enrolled in the vision. And it's not just your vision. It has to be their vision. They've got to see how being around you, how being in that organization lets them become more effective human beings, lets them become more powerful versions of themselves, and lets them fulfill their vision and what matters most to them. So I think it's that ability to communicate is the number one skill. I remember years ago, I was coaching people in Virgin Atlantic. And of course, I was curious and super keen to find out, what Richard Branson was really like. And I said, what makes him so great? And they said, actually, he's got this incredible ability to employ people who are smarter than him in those particular areas. And also, he's got an ability to make people believe, not just in themselves, but believe they can do things that previously they didn't think they could do. He's got this almost magical ability to literally whisper into someone's ear, and afterwards they're transformed. And they can rise and they can do things that previously they weren't sure about. So if you have that Midas touch, if you're willing to learn how to have that Midas touch, That's what it takes today. It's exactly the same with Nick Jones. So Nick Jones is the founder of Soho House, the most successful, the biggest private members club in the world. It's exactly the same. I'm a founder member, so I've known Nick from 30 years when Soho House started. And that means I've seen people come in there when they were 16, literally, and they were clearing tables and they were taking the dirty dishes to the kitchen. And those people now are some of the leaders in the Soho House organization. Sometimes I see them and I laugh and they go, "Do you remember?" And I said, "I remember your first day." And they said, "My God, wasn't I terrible?" I said, "You were new. You were 16. You weren't terrible." And I said, "What are you doing now?" "I'm running Europe." I said, are you serious?" "Yeah, I'm the person you want to know if you want to join it." Do you see? And Nick, and I remember interviewing, I did a book called The 7 Rules of Success. No. Yeah, it was actually 7 Rules of Success. Anyway.
I remember that book.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
2006.
Yeah.
So I was interviewing people for that. And I interviewed this person who was one of Nick's top people. So I said, "My Lord, you've been here since you were 16. He said, "I know. I started off literally washing dishes in the kitchen. You're a director now." And he said, "I know." I said, "How come? Why are you here that long? Why have you stayed all this time?" He said, "Because anytime you go to Nick and say, 'Hey, Nick, I think I should do something else. I'm thinking about moving on,' Nick will go, 'Pull up a chair. Let's talk. Why? What do you want to do? What's next for you? What's calling you?' And then Nick will find a way to help you make that happen in a better way, in an easier way, in a faster way with him." I said, and that is exactly what Richard Branson does. Exactly what he's done. Because I remember speaking to one of his people and she was saying, "Yeah, I'm going to leave actually quite soon. Nothing wrong with this. I just want to do something else." Exactly the same thing happened. She had that conversation with Richard and she stayed.
That's really fascinating. And, you said, first of all, this kind of magical ability, but also then that you if it's not inherent, you need to be able to learn that. And what I'm hearing with that, Fiona, is that kind of genuine curiosity about people, that genuine willingness to invest in them, not just in monetary terms, but in terms of time, and being interested in them and what they want, and then being able to provide opportunities for that. Is that what you see it as?
Yes, absolutely. Completely. I mean, a recent example, and I have some personal experience with this, is the Leon chain. So John Vincent set the chain up in, I think, 2004 with 2 other founders, Allegra, the chef, Allegra McAvidi, and Henry Dimbleby. And then it was sold after the lockdown fiasco. It was sold, and it went downhill. And John bought it back himself personally a couple of months ago, November 2005. And I came on board to start working with him a couple of weeks after he came back. And shortly after we met, he called me up and he said, just out of the blue, and he said, "Can we have a conversation?" I said, "Sure." And he said, "What do you want?" Tell me everything. What's important to you? And we ended up having this big personal conversation about what mattered to me in the widest sense. Even down to the fact that I've got, grandchildren in Berlin. I want to help give them the best start in life. And he was so curious. He said, "Well, what would that take? What does that look like?" I said, "Well, to be honest, I probably want to buy an apartment in Berlin. How much would that be?" Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely.
It was incredible. And we've had conversations since then where he said, genuinely interested, "How's it going with your business?" Because they're a client. We have other clients. Yeah. What's going on? What sort of clients do you have? How's it going? That genuine interest in people builds a connection, a loyalty that probably nothing else will build. Because most of John's original team, Leon team, are now back on board.
Right.
Every day somebody else comes back and I meet them and I go, what's your story? Yeah, I was here at the beginning. I just had to get out of my other contract. The minute John called, I said, that's it. There's no competition. I'm in. They're not even discussing the rates and the terms and conditions. They're just like, let me find out how quickly I can get out of here.
Yeah.
So his chief financial officer is back. His operations director is back. His franchise person is back. His chef. I mean, they're all back. And they all say the same thing. There's no one like John. There's no one that we've met who has a vision. It was a visionary like John. And also, he just lets you contribute. Like the door's always open. You get to, what they're really saying, but not saying it, is you get to contribute what you want to do in life in a bigger way because you're hooking your wagon to that bigger infrastructure, if you like.
Yeah. So one of the things that I find in the conversations that I have with leaders is that there's this real tension between many people who genuinely want to invest time, invest in their people, demonstrate that genuine curiosity that they have. But always one of the tensions is too busy. My calendar's a nightmare. I've got back-to-back meetings. How do I make the time to genuinely invest in my people? From your observations, Fiona, with some of these people, how do they make the time? Because they're obviously going to be incredibly busy people.
I mean, I think there's two things. One is you have to prioritize connection, building that relationship with your people. And secondly, it doesn't always have to be you. So once a month, you can go to the Leon HQ and you'll spend a day there. That day is paid for. And you will have the most inspiring experience probably of your life. I certainly did about 3 weeks ago. And I've been to a lot of motivational events. So they will have a top motivational speaker there who works in organizations. He comes and he's just so inspiring. Steve Head. He's called Steve Head. You will have Nick, who's the operations director, who's also a yoga teacher, doing yoga with them. You will have the chef talking about the food and why they've developed it like this, why the superfood salad is like this. You'll be treated to fantastic food. People cry, people laugh, people build connection and bond. It's amazing.
As you say, it doesn't always have to be you, but you also have to surround yourself with people who are of a similar ilk and want to invest and want to give people great experiences.
Absolutely. Like, the old show, don't tell. So if you're saying that you care about your people, where's the evidence?
Yes. Yeah.
So every single member of the Leon team gets to have that experience every single month.
So just shifting slightly, what do you see as being the biggest challenges in leadership today?
Well, I mean, it's not even what I think. It's just the fact. It's retention. It's people staying. It's attracting good people, but it's also keeping good people, because the days of a job for life are over. But actually, the days of someone staying for years and years, in most cases, are over. The younger generation, Gen Z, are especially intolerant. They will just walk. They'll finish the shift, they'll finish the week, they'll finish the month, they're gone. There's also, what do they call it? The quiet resignation. I can actually see it sometimes in places. I can think to myself, I think that person's got other plans. They're here, but they're halfway out the door. So there's that quiet resignation where people are planning their exit. So people are just unwilling to put up with an unpleasant or even just an uninspiring environment. So being able to keep people is the biggest challenge.
So as you said before, really working hard to create an environment that people want to be in. So it isn't good enough any longer just to have a place that's okay and pays you a reasonable salary. there's got to be more than that.
There absolutely has to be more than that, because the other thing is that everybody, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people have a dream of being an entrepreneur, of having their own thing, right? Starting it off, the 5 to 9, starting it off as a side hustle, building it up, and that giving them perhaps the freedom and the lifestyle that they want. So people just have bigger expectations of what's possible in life. It's really rare to find somebody who's been in the same job who doesn't enjoy it.
And I guess one of the things that you've mentioned a couple of times is impatience and intolerance. So one of the things that I'm certainly seeing is that people want to get where they want to be quickly. They don't want to wait for years. They want things to happen quickly for them. And as I said, and you also talked about that quiet resignation, which I've very much seen in many places as well. So what role do you think executive teams play in this? What role do you think that they can play in creating those environments as a team, not just as an individual leader, where people want to be?
I think that's a wonderful question. And I think there's a fantastic opportunity for teams to work together in a way where there's a camaraderie, collaboration, and not competition. Because everybody has experienced being in a toxic work environment, and it's not pleasant. And nobody wants to be in that environment. But what they do want to be in is a place where there's a sense of belonging and a sense of connection. I saw something recently that said people leaving to go somewhere else, more money is actually the least important reason.
Yeah.
If there is a team spirit, if there are people that they enjoy working with and they enjoy the experience, they're much more likely to stay. And money is just not the biggest motivator, because everybody knows you could be jumping ship into something not great at all. So I think absolutely being part of a team that works well together and motivates each other. Yeah, definitely.
So connection and belonging. I've seen that as well. With the people I work with, the reason for moving on is very rarely a bigger salary. That bigger salary to go with it is always nice, but it's not the primary motivator. So one of the things around that connection and creating that, kind of real camaraderie, what do you think about where AI fits into this? Because obviously, we're all now embracing AI, and we've heard quite a lot of the myths around AI will replace us as human beings. What are you seeing in terms of the way that AI fits into this whole picture?
I mean, I think AI is fantastically useful for all sorts of things. From meeting notes to giving you great ideas for things, of course, is wonderful. But what I think it's opening up actually is the need, and the more of the need for real life connections and real life experiences. So I've been doing a lot of looking into Gen Z, why they are so miserable. Because they are. For the first time in records began, the pyramid has shifted. It used to be that, you were young and you were happy, looking forward to life. And then you got to 47 and you had a midlife crisis. And you thought, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? But now you can have that conversation at 18, 25, and 27. The pyramid has shifted. So the first time ever, Gen Z, 18 to 29, are actually in despair. So one of the things that they're beginning to realize is they need to actually connect with real life human beings. and experiences that bring them into real life are what they're going for. So, for example, there's a phenomenon, I'm sure it's not just London, but in London it's certainly happening, and it's for board games, chess in particular. Can you believe that? In cafes and restaurants, where you sit down face to face with someone, not a screen, not your laptop or phone, but a human being on the other side of the table, and you switch off your phone, right? Isn't that incredible? So
it's incredible.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because that's what
I've seen it in Manchester as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. Yeah. Yeah.
So they have realized that automatic, I guess, indiscriminate use of screens that perhaps their parents are guilty of. I think they're now beginning to be more discerning and to switch off and come back to real life. Bird watching. Oh, my Lord. If you look at that award-winning podcast, Sean Bean is the host of it on YouTube, Get Birding, phenomenally successful. And so there's this resurgence of things like getting into nature, even if it's a park, and buying a pair of binoculars and going bird watching. Who would have thought it?
Yeah, I've seen that podcast. I love bird watching, so I think that's great.
Yeah.
So if you were to give any advice then to aspiring leaders today about how they became a trailblazing leader, what would be your best advice, Fiona?
You got to get good at communicating. You've got to learn how to inspire people. You've got to learn how to listen. You have got to find ways for people to express themselves in your organization, to express their vision of what they want to make happen in life. Then they'll stay. Then there's no reason for them to go, because you're providing them with an environment that lets them fulfill themselves. You've got to be able to speak, whether it's to a room of 6 people or 600, that is succinct and inspiring. So communication, funny enough, in this age of AI, has become the most important skill set. I think it wasn't Steve Jobs who said the future belongs to the storyteller. So like he foresaw all of this. If you can connect human being to human being and you can build a heart connection, you will have a relationship and a loyalty with people that nothing else will build.
Wonderful. Thank you. So we've covered quite a lot. Do you want to say anything to the listeners about your work and where people could find you if they wanted to get in touch to find out a bit more about you or to work with you?
Thank you so much, Lois. Well, I'm on LinkedIn, obviously. My name, Fiona Harrold, PR. I'm sure we'll put my website in here. What we do is help people really amplify their message, whether it's through traditional media or whether it's getting clear on social media what you need to do. But it's really about you as that founder, you as that leader, being able to reach the people that you need to reach. Very often we'll work with you inside your organization to make sure you're able to do that within the organization. Mostly, it's the media, it's the press, it's getting your message out and building your business, of course, in that way.
So thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Fiona, again, for being an amazing guest. And this is Leadership Trailblazers. Remember that the way we led yesterday is not going to lead us into tomorrow. And I will see you next time. Thank you.